Welcome to Her Birth Story podcast. Today I have my beautiful friend Tamie Frierson, who's come here to share her story. And so I'm excited to hear from you about your birth story. First, let me know a little bit about you. How many kids you have?
I have actually 4 children. So I married with 4 kids, but actually had, I say 4 pregnancies, 3 births, and 4 children, which is kind of weird how that happened. So here to share the uniqueness of each story.
All right, let's jump into it.
Yes.
Okay, tell me about your first one.
So my first one was, I think, the easiest. It was my daughter. And I was, of course, nervous, right? Because it's your first time being pregnant. And I had my husband with me the whole time. Every single appointment, he was there, from the first heartbeat all the way to the end. You know, I had him on the journey with me. It was a pretty seamless, I think, pregnancy and birth and delivery. I went in, with the first one, went in knowing I didn't want pain. So I went in wanting to get the epidural, got that right away. All the pain went away and I was fine. That was the first one. It was pretty seamless.
Great. I honestly want to know, with your first pregnancy, did you enjoy it at all?
I did. I was super excited. Although I had only been married about 2 years at the time. And so we were actually not trying to get pregnant. I was supposed to have been taking my birth control, but I wasn't very good at it. And so ended up, pregnant early on in our marriage. But I was excited. I was excited to be a mom. And but also scared, not sure, what it would look like. But again, it was a pretty, I want to say, in comparison to what I would go through later, my first pregnancy and birth with my daughter was pretty seamless.
Nice. And it was, so obviously you had a girl first.
I had a girl first. Yeah.
You were a girl mom.
My second pregnancy is the one that I don't talk about. I've actually hardly ever talked about it, maybe just with 1 or 2 people. Like I said in the first story, my husband was with me for every single appointment. So we find out we're pregnant again, and I've already been through it. I already know what to expect. At least I think I do. And so we start going to the appointments. Everything's good. Everything's going great as far as we can tell. 4 months into the pregnancy, I tell my husband, hey, it's just a routine, check. You don't have to go. You're busy or whatever. 10 with me for this appointment. Like I said, he had been there before, but this time I told him not to come. I go in having the routine things where they check the baby's heartbeat. And when they did, I could tell that there was something off, something wrong. So they take me to the back and they say, hey, we're going to look a little further. Something's just not quite right. And so they take me to the back to do a more thorough sonogram. And when they do, they say, I'm sorry, Miss Frierson, but there's no heartbeat.
Oh, no.
And I was by myself. And I was devastated. I was like, what do you mean no heartbeat? And so ultimately what happened was they said, there's 2 things that can happen. You can, miscarry naturally. You will do that. Or you can have a D&C done. And so I chose the D&C route. I just wanted to kind of get it over with. I didn't want to just belabor the point. So we chose to have the D&C done. And I remember questioning God, like, Lord, why did you allow me to get pregnant? And then to take the heartbeat, to take my baby. I was just questioning God. I didn't understand it, Jaleesa. I was so confused. Being a Christian and all, I was like, God, what's going on? A couple years later, I get pregnant again. And this time I tell my husband, hey, the last time you missed the appointment, I didn't have a heartbeat. You can't miss no more appointments.
Yeah.
And he was on board. He was cool with it. So every single appointment for this third birth story or pregnancy, he was with me. And I'm anxious to hear heartbeat. I'm anxious because I know what it's like to not hear it. So we go in for the routine appointment again. And I asked the sonograph guy, I go, hey, is there a heartbeat? Is there a heartbeat? He said, ma'am, there's 2 heartbeats.
Wow. Gosh.
There's 2 heartbeats. And I remember thinking, I went from
Girl.
being nervous about a heartbeat because I had lost the heartbeat to having two heartbeats.
Girl, with a tissue. I didn't bring no tissue.
That's why I brought this.
I ain't get no tissue. The tissue must be for you.
I got one for me too.
Wow.
So, there was two heartbeats, Jaleesa. And I remember thinking,
Wow.
God's giving me that the heartbeat back that I lost.
Wow. That was unexpected. I never heard this side of your story. I mean, of course, sharing your story.
Right.
It's an honor to hear it, but just how it unfolded.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole pregnancy,
Mm-hmm.
when you first heard them say you have two heartbeats,
Mm-hmm.
what was your first thought?
I was floored. I was like, God, I questioned, why did you allow me to lose this heartbeat early on and to be given two heartbeats later?
Mm-hmm.
And, so yeah, there were so many questions, like I said, I had early on, and grief and the pain and the tragic loss of that one baby. But then for God to turn around and go, I gave you double for your troubles, you know, was such, I was shocked, floored. I couldn't believe it. Found out it was two boys. We're having boys. Yeah, I was nervous too. Like, oh my gosh, now I'm going to have twins. And so they watch you differently with twins.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed from my first pregnancy to well, not the second, but the third pregnancy with the twins, they were a lot different, a lot more attentive with me.
Mm-hmm.
I had more appointments.
Yeah.
All the way through. And so, which was fine.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just watching myself grow and grow and grow. But all in all of my children were very, very small babies.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was something that also was a little bit of a test later on because of their birth weights. The twins were growing kind of slow. And so they were doing other things to make sure I was getting enough nutrients to both of them.
Yeah.
One was shrunk faster than the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And so they monitored me closely to make sure my nutrition was well. I was taking care of myself, sleeping well, so that I would be able to have, two viable births. So pregnant with twins now, and I was just, it was a miracle. It was an absolute miracle. But their actual delivery. So with my daughter, like I said, I went into, it was pretty seamless, right? I had, the contractions, went into the labor, epidural or whatever. Went in there, no pain. It was good.
Mm-hmm.
Now the twins, my water breaks. My husband's not there. My water breaks, and he's like, hey, we got to get to the hospital. Mm-hmm. The doctors had been telling me all along, hey, based on your gestational time frame, your babies are probably about 5 pounds each,
Mm-hmm.
So if you have the babies between 36 weeks, you're good. I ended up going into labor though, my water breaking about 34 weeks in. So it was early and a little nervous. But so my husband comes home, takes me to the hospital, and I want my epidural like before. Come in, I don't want this pain. I'm a baby when it comes to pain.
So you had your twins vaginally?
So, no, I had one vaginally and I had one with a cesarean.
Keep going. I'm jumping to the story. I was like, wait, hold on now.
Yes.
Amazing.
So the first one, I go in, I want the epidural. They take me to the back to get the epidural once I got to a certain point. And I think, I'm not for certain, if the people who were doing the epidural were the nurse and the man who was doing it were in a relationship, but they started arguing about what position to get me in for the epidural, because you got to hunch over, so they can, do the needle on your back.
So the anesthesiologist
Yes.
and the nurse.
And the nurse, yes. Male, female, and they were like arguing about how I should be. And I'm like, trying to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And he's telling her, put her like this, put her like that. And she's like, I'm doing it. And they were like arguing. Mm-hmm. I'm in pain, having contractions, and they're arguing. Mm-hmm. And so I say, hey, just tell me what to do. I'll do it. Mm-hmm. And so they go and they do it. And I'm expecting it to be like my daughter's birth. The pain's going to go away. They take me back to my bed after they supposedly had done it. But the pain don't stop.
Oh.
I keep feeling contractions. And I'm like, how long am I supposed to still keep feeling contractions?
Right.
It's not working. They say, oh, man, we don't think it worked. We're going to take you back and do it again.
Take you back to do it again?
To do another epidural. So they take me back to give me a second shot in my back. And it didn't work. It didn't work. The medicine did not go in my spine. I'm not sure what they were doing. I'm not sure what was happening, but neither shots worked. So I can feel everything.
Wow.
And I go, hey, the medicine's not working. It's not working. I shouldn't still feel pain. They check me. They go, ma'am, it's too far. You got to push.
Oh, so you complete by now?
I'm complete.
Wow.
I got to push. And I can feel everything. And I am freaking out and I'm scared. Because, like I said, I'm a baby when it comes to pain. And I did not want to push. I did not want to push because I can feel it. I could feel it. This was the first time I could feel it. But I have to do it.
Yeah.
And I start to do it. And they have, you know, the people helping me push and all that stuff. And the doctor's reaching in there, moving stuff around because I have 2 babies inside of me.
Yes.
And they're moving them around to get them out.
Oh my
and I feel it.
gosh.
And I'm like, I think like this is like gonna be the death of me. I just like, I can't do it. But somehow, some way, I was able to push that baby out, the first one out. And I was like, wow, I actually experienced childbirth naturally.
You did.
I actually went, I didn't plan it,
Mm-hmm.
but I went through a natural childbirth with my first twin. The second twin, he wasn't cooperating. He wasn't ready to come out.
Just say, what's it called?
They kept going back in there.
Okay, which one is this one?
So twin A is out.
Okay.
Now twin B.
Name.
Okay, so Garen's twin A, yes.
Okay.
He's out. It was 14 minutes before the second one comes out.
Oh, wow.
14 minutes between their births. And they tell me, hey, we think he's in distress. We need to do an emergency C-section right now.
Oh.
I go, whoa, wait a minute. Are you going to cut me? Because I can feel everything right now.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel, how are you going to do an emergency C-section? Because I can feel stuff. And I was like this, they go, oh, we're going to put you out, ma'am. You're going to go out.
General.
And they kick my husband out the room. And he goes out. From my understanding, he was out in the room praying, you know, Lord, what's going on? He's not able to be in there with me. They told me to count back, you know, backwards from 5 or from 100 down. So I'm like 100, 99, whatever. I'm counting down. Then I'm out of it. I wake up. I found out I'd had another baby. And so the second twin came out. I don't know what it was like. I was completely out of it. Yeah. But at least I got to experience it with the first one. So that was a very, you know, unexpected experience. I didn't expect to go in and have two different types of deliveries. So yeah, one vaginal, one emergency C-section. So that was my third when I had the twins. And now I have, at this point, 3 heartbeats. They're all here. And so now we get to my 4th one.
Before we go to the 4th one,
Sure.
You're the twins.
Yes.
Were you trying to get pregnant? Was it something y'all had planned on? And how did you find out you was pregnant?
Having lost that second baby, I definitely wanted to get pregnant again. And so we were not, you know, trying to not conceive. We were not actively trying to get pregnant, but we were not trying to not get pregnant either. And so I was late and took a test, and that's how I found out, you know.
So you're just like, y'all were just kind of like in the wind of it all.
Yeah. It wasn't really planned or not planned, but I was open to it because I had already had a loss. So that was what that was like with the twins. I will say.
How many years was that after the loss? 2 years?
It was about a year and a half later, not quite 2, about a year and a half later. So my daughter was 5 years old, and the twins, so when I had the twins, my daughter was 5. So it was 5 years between the first and the twins. And I went from having 1 to 3 kids like that. Yeah. And it was a whirlwind. Yeah. It was a whirlwind. Yeah. So did I answer your question?
You did. Okay. As far as the doctor who delivered your babies, were they the same?
Yes.
For the first
child?
Oh, no.
So the first doctor, when I went in with her that delivered, because I went in, my doctor wasn't on call that night. So the nurse on call, or the doctor on call, is the one that delivered my baby.
Okay, the hospital. Okay.
And so for the twins, again, same thing. I went into birth. I went into, what's it called? Labor. I went into labor. And so it wasn't planned. And so the doctor on call wasn't my actual doctor either.
Wow.
And actually the whole emergency C-section situation, they jacked me up pretty bad because they had to get in there apparently pretty quickly to get my baby out.
Yeah.
But it was most important to save his life and make sure that they were concerned about him not getting enough oxygen. And the effects of that probably could be brain damage and other things. And so getting him out fast was very important. And so, yeah, but it was just, each experience was very, very, very different.
Yeah. And then you had another child. You got another pregnancy. This is your this is your fourth pregnancy.
Fourth pregnancy. Because I had twins already, Jaleesa, I was not really wanting to be pregnant, but it actually took listen, birth control is just not been my thing.
Birth control is just not your thing,
I'm not very good. I'm not very disciplined at it.
Okay.
And so found out I was pregnant with my fourth child at this point. And I was really, really scared because, again, I went from 1 to 3 and I was like, it took a couple of years before I got pregnant after the twins. And I, for some reason, thought, nah, I'm not going to get pregnant. Maybe I'm not that fertile. I was wrong. I was fertile.
And how old were you at this time?
Okay, so I must have been about 28.
Okay,
yes,
28. Absolutely.
Yeah, 28. So I don't really know.
Highly fertile.
Yeah. And I remember I had some family over at the house when I was wondering, am I pregnant? Am I late? Lord, I'm not going to have a fourth child. What if it's twins again? Lord, what's going to happen? And so I had some family over actually, and I said, I'm gonna go up and take this test while they're here, and my brother and sister-in-law are over visiting, and I go upstairs, take the test, and I wait for it, and I come back and I see, oh my gosh, it says I'm pregnant. And I'm speechless. I remember sitting at the top of my stairs thinking, I can't even go downstairs.
Why?
Because I was really nervous about having a fourth child.
Wow.
I mean, I was really struggling with 3. It was a struggle with the twins. My world was turned upside down. And we'll talk about postpartum a little bit later, I know, but I wasn't really ready for a fourth child, to be honest. And anyways, I come down and I tell my sister-in-law first, I go, come here, girl. I just fell down. And I kind of cried on the stairs with her, and she goes, you gonna tell Gary? I go, yeah, I'm gonna tell him after y'all leave. I tell him, and he's like, all right. He said, I actually had a dream that she was pregnant.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. So when did he say when?
He said he just told me that I actually had a dream you were pregnant. He didn't tell me the timing, but it was after I had the twins. So it's weird. Maybe God was trying to tell him early on, but preparing him. But in his dream, I was having a girl. He's like, this baby, you're gonna have 2 girls, 2 boys. But no, it was 1 girl. It wasn't that. It was a boy. Oh. So my fourth pregnancy, I was 4 and no more for us. We go in again. Hearing a heartbeat was very important because of what I experienced. And so they say, for that, when you get to the point where you can hear the heartbeat, they tell me, the heartbeat is there, and we can tell it's a boy.
Oh.
But his left femur, or the thigh bone, they say it looks like it's broken. And so did anything happen? Do you remember it falling or anything? And I was like, no, I don't remember anything happening. And so they say, well, because of his leg, we're going to have to now monitor his growth, the gestational periods of his growth throughout. And they gave me the opportunity because of this to do those 3D sonograms. Oh, nice. Which was very
really cool.
Yeah, because you don't get that on your insurance. You got to get the 2D, right? But because his leg was broken, they say they want to look at it through 3D now. And that was so cool because I could see my baby in 3D. Like, it was my first time being able to do that. And watching him grow in the 3D, with 3D like pictures was so cool and special for me. Yeah. I was also really worried, like, what's wrong with his leg? How can it be broken? And so they tell me right away, because his leg appears to be broken, we're not going to allow you to have a vaginal delivery for him. So they start planning for me to go in to do a spinal block. So I know all along for this fourth one, it's going to be a spinal block. And which was something I had never heard. I had epidurals. Sometimes they don't take, as we know. But they said, no, we're going to do a spinal block and it's going to take. And so I thought, cool. So it wasn't, I had to go into labor with my fourth one, Gabriel. It was all planned. And so before his time, they planned for me to come in and they prepped me for it or whatever. And I go in to have the spinal block. But what I didn't know was when they have a spinal block is you can't feel yourself breathe. And that was a very traumatic experience for me. The importance of, we breathe naturally, like things happen, right, without us having to think about it. We inhale, exhale, we blink, our body does all these things, you know, systematically without us having to think about it. But breathing, we don't realize how important it is to actually feel it. And with that spinal block, you don't feel your chest breathe. And the anesthesiologist is behind my head talking to me the whole time, trying to keep me calm. And I'm telling her, I'm asking her, am I breathing? Am I still breathing? And she's like, yeah. And she's talking to me and she's coaching me and she's asking me about my twins and trying to keep my mind off of my breaths. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about them. Am I breathing? Am I alive? Have I died? Is this real? I'll tell you, I never want to experience that spinal block again. That was horrible. It was horrible not to be able to feel myself. With the epidural, I couldn't feel my legs, but I could feel my chest. But that spinal block, I couldn't feel my chest, and I didn't like it. But she talked me through it, tried to keep my mind off of it. And I also remember being so cold and shaky. And I was just like, and they said it's all the medicine that they're giving me. And I wish I would have like known, you know, what I was going to experience. I think it may have better prepared me for it, but I wasn't educated enough to know what to expect. But, you know, I think the doctor did great. The best part about it was because this was planned, because it was with my actual doctor for the first time now.
Wow.
He told me, I'm going to fix that mess up that they did for that emergency C-section.
The incision site?
Yes. And he basically gave me a little tummy tuck. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. He was able to snatch it down, pull it in, and fix it.
Amen.
And so because of Gabriel having the broken leg, at least they thought it was going to be broken.
Yeah.
I was able to get like some things fixed I wouldn't have been able to get fixed otherwise.
Okay.
And I was like, God, okay, I see, you know,
Amen.
you're letting some stuff happen. But when Gabriel was actually born, to God be the glory, his leg was not broken. There was a bend in his bone, which caused his left leg to be shorter than his right leg.
Okay.
Later on, we had to have bone lengthening surgery done for him to lengthen that leg. But all in all, he's healthy and fine. But yeah, his leg wasn't broken, and we don't know why and what happened with him. But I'm thankful looking back now, like as to, you know, how his leg looking like that allowed for some cosmetic things to happen, you know, with me later on.
Yeah.
But it was definitely, like each birth experience was definitely different.
Yeah, absolutely. And your doctor finally came to one of the
Yes,
births.
yes, he was there. Oh my gosh, he was amazing man. The other doctors that delivered were women, but my actual doctor was a male doctor. But he was great bedside manners, just amazing man. And so, yeah, but he was there the whole time. And also, because my son's leg looked weird, I had extra appointments. And again, the 3D sonograms, he would discuss it with me throughout the whole time. I felt like he was more attentive. I got the most attention through Gabriel's birth than I even did with the twins. And the twins, I got a lot of attention, but I got even more attention with the fourth one because of his leg.
Yeah. It's amazing you're saying that, because I would think that with your, you know, you were high risk no matter what.
Yeah.
FYI. You know, after a miscarriage, you automatically jump into a high risk pregnancy. And then also considering that not only did you lose one, but now that you are pregnant with twins, you know, you're high risk for it's more of the bleeding that we're concerned about, right? And then you had surgery, so the next pregnancy made you even more higher risk because you had a surgery, and on top of that you had twins. And here you are again having another surgery on your body. So it's just all of these collaborating. So yes, I can see why you got even more, not just for the fact that he had the sonogram showed, the differences of his leg, but you overall needed that attention too.
Yeah.
Through your pregnancy and your son. And so I'm glad to hear that at the end of your journey of your last pregnancy, you got even more attention.
Yeah.
Greater than the last one, but even more attentive
Yeah.
at the end of it.
Yeah.
So it makes me happy to know that you are here today sharing your story, because that's a whirlwind of things.
Yeah.
Do you see, I see God in a lot of the factors of it all. I feel like in the heart of it all, what would you share to anyone who not experienced your journey, but just about what can you say inspirational to another woman about what you experienced overall?
That everything happens for a reason. And had I not gone through the loss, it now helped me be more relatable to people who have experienced loss. Having 4 kids, I can say, yeah, I have 4 kids. That's a blessing. But I've also experienced loss. And so being able to relate to women who've gone through that, because I don't talk about that. I don't talk about that. It was hard, and I had a lot of questions then. And so even through loss, there's a story to be told, and someone can benefit from it. Another thing I will tell women is that you can do it. Like even like when the medicines don't work. And like when I was pushing out my first twin, Garen, I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I was ready for pain, that kind of pain. But God has created us to handle it. And we need to have the doctors and nurses on staff available, to help us through that, or the, birthing people. But God has equipped us, to do great things. And whether it's even experiencing the loss, not to get over it, but to move on with life, and you not be paralyzed by it, and being willing to try again, being willing to give it another go, because after I lost that first one, my second child, I was really wondering, God, am I going to keep losing kids? Is this going to keep happening? And again, for God to allow me to have, 2 heartbeats after experiencing the loss of one, God's always up to something. And just in the pain, people who are scared of pain, I get it. I am really fearful of it. But even in the pain, we can get through it. And if were it not for the pain, there's some things you don't get to experience. Let me go back to my daughter. When I had her, like I said, it was the epidural. It was seamless. But my husband was there rubbing my leg the whole time. Or not the whole time, but in the beginning, and I couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel his touch.
I can't explain how many times I've heard that.
And it was annoying me. And it was like seeing someone rub you, but you can't feel it. And so I actually told him, can you stop?
But it was for him.
It was weird to me.
It was for him.
It was weird. But I now am glad I was able to feel it.
Yeah.
To feel my body through it, to feel everything, all the, everything. I was able to feel it. And feeling pain is a blessing. Like it hurts, but it's also being able to feel yourself is a blessing. Yeah, that you can do it. Even if it's painful, you can do it. You can get through it.
Absolutely. Wow. The postpartum part, we're coming to the end of it all, but the postpartum part, I want to ask you about the postpartum part for loss. Because, we always talk about the postpartum part for after birth, but the postpartum, which is your 4th trimester, no matter how it came or wherever your time was. I don't know how far you were in your...
I wish I tried to. So my oldest is 23, right? So it's been a long time ago. And I haven't talked about some of the stuff, but it's been years. So I don't remember how far along I was with that second pregnancy. I was far enough along where I knew I'd already heard the heartbeat before.
Yeah. And that matters. That's all. But it's like, how did you walk that path? Did you go seek out resources? Did you isolate yourself? How was your husband of support?
Yeah, we were both, I think, hurt, I talked to somebody about it who had also experienced loss, and quite because she was a Christian, and I felt like she wouldn't judge me for my questions. She didn't judge me. She didn't judge my questions. She just said, I understand, I understand, because she had gone through it as well. But I was just, I think I did isolate myself. I think I did isolate myself. It's kind of a blur some of that time. But I remember just being very nervous about getting pregnant again, and very nervous about what it would look like. And I just remember thinking, am I going to keep losing babies? And because for it to not happen and then to happen, I just stopped trusting God. Like, although God had brought a baby out of me once before,
Wow.
my faith was shaken. Like, maybe I can't continue to have children. And so that's what I thought.
Were you angry at any point?
I was angry. I was upset. I went through all the stages of grief, denial, like trying to accept it. I was angry. I just didn't understand. Like, God, I'm living for you. I'm doing all I can. Being faithful. Like, why am I experiencing the loss of this child? Why did you bring me this far? Why did you bring me this far on the journey to not have a heartbeat? Everything looked fine. Everything looked fine. And so, yeah, definitely. But I don't remember a lot of that. Maybe I blocked it out to protect myself, but I don't remember a lot of what it was like afterwards. I just remember being scared to get pregnant again, but even though I wanted to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as far as the twins, how was that postpartum transition for you?
Jaleesa, I hated my life.
Oh, wow. It's okay.
I was really happy to have had twins, but it was so hard. And so, because they were so, when I had my twins, let me go back to them. When I had my twins, sorry, I didn't expect that.
It's okay.
Like I said, they tell us, hey, these babies are going to be 5 pounds, 5 pounds. But when I go in to deliver them, the first twin that I had that I pushed out was only 3 pounds, like 4 ounces. And the second twin was 4 pounds, 4 ounces. And they had to stay in the NICU. And like with my daughter, I was able to bring her home. They discharged me. She comes home with me. And they telling me, you're done. They stay here.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? What do you mean? And so I remember just like being like shaken. Why did they tell me my babies were going to be 5 pounds and 5 pounds, but they were 3 pounds and 4 pounds? And like, they know, but they don't know. They're just guesstimating, how big the baby's going to be. And so like, I knew I needed to get my babies up to a good birth weight in order to get them home. So postpartum, like after I had them, I'm at the hospital. After they sent me home every day, doing the kangaroo hugs where they're chest to chest with us. My husband's, holding one, and I'm holding the other one. And we're loving them, because they say the more you love them, the more they grow. And so I remember just loving on them and not wanting to be separated from them. I felt like I needed to be close to them. But the hospital had just discharged me. About a week later, they tell me they have gotten, I was also expressing my milk out, making sure they got the breast milk. And so they eventually get to the right weight and they can come home. And it was Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. And I was like, God, this is the best Christmas gift ever. Thank you, Jesus, for them coming home. But I had to breastfeed twins to get there, because they were big enough to come home, but they was itty bitty. They were still so small. And I realized the importance of me to give them their nourishment.
Yes.
Like, they need me.
Yes.
And I was gung-ho. I'm going to get my babies fat. I'm going to get them fat. But it took a toll on me.
Oh.
Every 2 hours feeding 2 babies.
Yeah.
Every 2 hours, I was sleep deprived.
You were working.
I was working hard to provide for them. And it was draining me. I couldn't give to my daughter, who was 5. I couldn't give to my husband. I couldn't give to anybody but these twins. And it was so hard for me not having the importance of sleep.
Yeah, Absolutely.
The importance of sleep, I was I wasn't getting it. And so I was miserable. I hated it. I hated not getting sleep, but I knew I had to be there for them. And I got to a point where I said, God, I can't, I can't continue to like, not give myself sleep. And so I decided I was going to let my milk dry up and just go ahead and give them formula. I felt like I had failed, like, gosh, I'm failing my babies. But I just had no more in me. I was super depressed. I was super sad because when I had my daughter, once you get to a certain point, you can kind of go out in public. But going out in public now with 3 kids is a whole different monster. And so I was very isolated. I stayed in. I didn't want to go anywhere because it was so much work to carry 2 car seats and a child. And so my husband couldn't be with me everywhere. You know, he had to work or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I remember just staying home. So in that postpartum time with the twins was super hard. But I don't know how, prayers of the righteous or whatever, but I said, I have to learn how to live with twins. I have to learn how to do life. I cannot let having more to hold keep me from going out. And so I started going out with them. I would load them up. I knew it was going to take me 2 more hours to get ready. I had to make so many adjustments. But I did it. I was able to take them out to the stores, to the parks, by myself. While my husband was at work, I did it on my own. You don't realize how much strength you have. But I did it. And I mean, it was hard. It was definitely difficult. But yeah, I was paralyzed for a while during that time. And I got really emotional because I remember thinking, Lord, thank you for my 2 heartbeats. But then I was like, oh my gosh, to whom much is given, much is required. It's like, oh wow, it's so cool you got twins. It is work. It is work. But it's hard work, you know? And so you do it from a place of love, but it's not easy.
Absolutely.
It's not easy.
So you gave an inspiration to other women. What would you give for yourself? What would you say to Tamie today about Tamie back then? What's the inspiration?
During that time,
what would you say to her?
You're enough. You're beautiful. Because, you know, I got that acne really bad. We know because your hormones are raging. I felt ugly. I felt fat. I felt disgusted with myself. I'm cut up ugly. Like, oh my gosh, this lady done jacked me up. My husband's never going to want to be with me. I would have told myself, you're beautiful. That you're beautiful just as you are.
Yeah.
That, because I didn't feel it.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it. Yeah.
That's real. I thank you so much for sharing your story. And I know it's going to inspire someone else.
I hope so.
It's also going to bring some home ground to other women to know that the thoughts that they feel within themselves, the experiences that they have personally, that they're not alone. And I thank you for being a voice for yourself and other women to come on this platform, sharing your birth story.
Thank you, Jaleesa. It was a pleasure. I'm glad to have been able to share it. I will, say, going back a little bit when I had those twins and I was dealing with that anesthesiologist and nurse kind of arguing. I think speaking up for yourself
absolutely
is important because there's no reason why the epidural shouldn't have taken had they not been arguing, had they not been having their tiffs. So we are dealing with human beings in these rooms.
Yeah.
And so to be prayerful, even if you're prepared, even if you plan it, to continue to be prayerful because you're dealing with people. You're dealing with people who are flawed.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Story. I mean, it even shows about like even the dynamics of the hospital, where the education for us needs to. And so what I would want as a friend to a friend, I would hope that, all my women friends, Black women specifically as well, would to see your doctor, of course, the checkups or the growth of the baby, the checkups are for you mentally as well. How are you doing? Okay, what am I to expect? So those type of questions, I will hope that they can start preparing themselves that when they go in, they see their doctor, that they're not just sitting here saying, yeah, the baby's good. Okay, are we on the same plan? What's the plan for when it comes time for me to go into labor? And so those are the questions I would hope that we can start writing down for ourselves and better preparation.
Yeah.
Or if something was to unfold like your situation, you know, what the doctors expect.
Yeah, and I think write your questions down before your appointments, because I would get into my appointments and they go, you have any questions? And I'd go, I had a question. What was that question? And I couldn't remember my question. And then I get home and I go, I was going to ask them, you know, can I eat spicy foods or whatever my question was,
Yes.
right? So I think when you get those questions, when you have a question, write them down. And yeah, you just got to do your research.
Absolutely.
And don't take it for granted that they just know, you know your body better than they do. And if you have questions or about what you're feeling, it's better to be safe than to be sorry.
Yeah.
And so ask the questions. There's no stupid question. On the other side of your question is your answer. So ask the questions.
So for your birth story, what would you summarize it all of it? What would you summarize your story? What is a caption for you?
I like to call my story my 4 heartbeats.
Wow.
My 4 heartbeats.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to her birth story. Here with Tamie Frierson with her 4 heartbeats.
Thank you, Jaleesa.